All right, here's another issue, the last installment of notes before we take our last test, and this one is on Russia, land of the czars. Now the Russians, here's a picture of their, what you might call their White House, or if they call the Kremlin. All right, and notice structurally what it looks like. All right, has some different influences than what you're probably used to looking at. And we're going to talk about those influences in just a minute. Now, Russia as a country, you may or may not notice, is the largest nation on earth. That is in terms of landmass, not necessarily people, but in terms of landmass. All right. Now, you can get this part right here. It says navigable, blah, 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 blah. I can't pronounce that. That means that they have plenty of rivers that you can put a boat on, or a ship, and be able to get up and down the river, crisscrossing across Russia. So they have plenty of waterways. All right, plenty. And while this is scenic and beautiful, it is also going to be a problem for early Russia, because not only can wonderful things like food and fish and this kind of thing come through there, but also invaders who are going to come out of this region here. And they're going to come, and they're going to, initially they're just going to come and trade, but eventually they're going to come and take over. And if you know, hell, I'm sorry, but the Detroit Lions are playing these guys tonight, and we're going to put it on them. This is what Russia should have did, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Now, the Vikings, when they came, they were this wild, boisterous group that would just show up on these little small boats, jump off, and attack whoever they saw. All right. The Vikings were, and it would seem chaotic, but they were extremely well organized, great warriors. All right, they knew exactly what they were doing. But the reason that they would come through these waterways in Russia was because they wanted to trade with the Byzantine Empire. All right, had a lot of goods that the Byzantine Empire could offer. So, I mean, when you think about Russia, all right, initially it was Slavic, but these Vikings are going to come in. It says subdue, that means take over. So these Vikings are going to come in and take over this Slavic region, all right, and they're going to establish their own trading cities. So when you think of Russian culture, make sure you get this right here. Russian culture is a mixture of Slavic, Viking, and Greek influences, okay? Now, the first capital was a city called Kiev. Now, Kiev was really, like it says, the first Russian organized state. That means that it was like a city-state that is going to expand out its control beyond its borders to the region around it, with Kiev being the dominant center initially. Okay. One of its most famous rulers is a Viking descendant named Vladimir. Vladimir is important because, and there were a lot of rulers, but this guy is important because he foresaw something. He saw something a little bit different. He figured he could, if he adopted Christianity, he could unite the Russian people under him. Okay, so Vlad, a powerful ruler, all right, make sure you get everything that you see here. All right, this powerful ruler of Kiev is going to bring Orthodox, not just Christianity, but Orthodox Christianity. All right, and who do you get Orthodox Christianity from? The Byzantine Empire. We're going to come back to that. You're going to constantly see this Byzantine influence in Russia. All right, and so he does it not because just because I mean, you know, he saw a symbol or something. No, don't get it confused. He wanted to unite the Russian people, and he saw religion as the way to do that. Religion as, and so why not adopt Orthodox Christianity? Plus, as the Orthodox, the way they had it organized, if you were the leader of your country, you were over the church within your country. Okay? Now, another important leader is a guy named Yaroslav, sometimes called Yaroslav the Wise. Okay, Yaroslav the Wise, and you'll see why. All right, so just like Vladimir adopted the Orthodox religion, Yaroslav the Wise is going to adopt the Byzantine law code. All right, so make sure you understand this. He's going to adopt the Byzantine, and he's going to call it the Yaroslav law code, but his law code is going to be important because, one, it links back to the Byzantine Empire, but two, it brings Russia into modern times. Okay, make sure you also get this part down here, where he tried to establish alliances with Western Europe through by marrying off some of his daughters to them. That becomes important later on. We'll talk about that then. Now, everything seems to be going great, all right, and you can see the Byzantine influence on Russia. All right, in fact, I'll give you one more Byzantine influence. The word for their leader, Tsar. All right, the C is silent. Tsar, okay, comes from, yeah, you guessed it, the Byzantine Empire. That is, the Byzantine Empire, who used to be part of the Roman Empire, used the word Caesar for their leader. Caesar, going all the way back to, yes, you guessed it, Julius. So Caesar became the word for leader in the Roman Empire, which became the word for leader in the Byzantine Empire, which now becomes the word for leader in the Russian Empire with the word Tsar. Okay, and we'll talk about that now. The Orthodox Church, all right, the official religion of Russia, which we have already discussed under Vladimir. Now, another reason that it's going to become popular is the old Cyrillic alphabet. Okay, if you don't know what the Cyrillic alphabet is, you should look that up. The Cyrillic alphabet, Saint Cyril of the Byzantine Empire, him and Saint Methodosius are going to go out, and they're going to start converting Slavs, and they needed a written language. All right, the Bible is a book, it's written, and so they needed a written language, and they create this alphabet out of Greek. It's a mixture of Greek and Slavic language. All right, so still to this day, the Russian alphabet looks like this, going back to the Cyrillic alphabet. All right, now, why did it all fall apart? Well, of course, you get a little civil war. You know, who hadn't had that? A drop in trade, and then, of course, the Mongols. When you see these guys coming, it's time to run. The Mongol horde.
In the year 1237, having conquered the eastern world, the Mongol horde, the sons of Genghis Khan, unleashed their fury on the west and the land of the Rus. The Mongol horde was the greatest war machine in history. Tens of thousands of men on horseback, organized to murderous perfection. In just 3 years, they subdued almost all of Russia. In over 1,000 years of history, only the Mongols would ever accomplish that feat.
They came in huge numbers. They came prepared for long-distance campaigns.
Their campaigns would normally have between maybe 50,000 to 100,000, and if we're to believe some sources, well in excess of 100,000 soldiers.
Mongol warriors trapped Russian armies and cut them to pieces. They captured Russian princes and held them hostage. They torched Russian cities and left them in ruins. In 1240, the Mongols' leader, Batu Khan, the grandson of Genghis Khan, laid siege to the soul of ancient Russia, the city of Kiev. His messengers sent a warning.
If you surrender to me, you will be forgiven. If you resist, you will suffer greatly and perish cruelly.
Kiev chose death. Refusing to submit to the invaders, the greatest city in the land of the Rus was reduced to a smoldering ruin.
Alright, and that is what happened to the city of Kiev. Now, so once Kiev is destroyed, the Mongols have taken over. Make sure you get this part down here in the yellow box. The Mongols, when they take over, they force the Russians basically to pay. So instead of just invading and mixing into this area, the Mongols basically force them to pay a tax. And for the most part, they leave Russia alone. As long as they pay their taxes, everything's going to be fine. Alright. And so the Russians were pretty scared because they didn't want another Kiev to happen. So for the most part, Russia begins to rebuild with Moscow now as the center. Alright. Now with Moscow now the center, different princes would collect the taxes, give it to the Mongols, and everything was cool. Alright, until we get to this guy named Ivan III, who used to be called Ivan the Moneybags, you know, when he was, you know, paying the taxes, right? But he gets a funny hair up his butt and decides, you know what, I'm not going to pay. And when he decides not to pay the taxes, things get scary quick. The other Russian leaders, you know, got scared and they were like, what should we do? And then they all united behind Ivan. And so he put all their armies together, challenged the Mongols, told them he's not paying. You think the Mongols are going to, you know, bring this huge war machine? The Mongols basically said, forget it. Y'all ain't even worth it. We got other stuff to worry about. And so the Mongols left Russia, which, you know, they called it the Golden Horde. Left it without even fighting. Alright. And that brought an end to Mongol rule in Russia. Alright. That brought an end to Mongol rule in Russia. Ivan becomes the new Tsar of Russia. Moscow becomes its new capital. Still the capital today. Alright. And for the most part, Russia is going to exist in squalor up until they get a leader named Peter the Great a little later on, and we'll talk about Peter the Great. But I got a couple of questions here I want you to answer, and put that on a separate sheet of paper for me. Turn that in tomorrow, and that is it. Make sure you're ready for your tests coming up on Thursday and Friday.